Howdy folks, greetings. Now there's one thing I haven't done for quite a long time, and that's checking with GB News. Now the main reason for that is because since the election it's kind of got dull really. I mean, every video just seems to be damning Starmer for whatever they can get their hands on, making out he's the devil incorporated, you know, so it's kind of been a bit dull. But then I stumbled across this video where they talk about veganism. I thought this would be really interesting. So you've got this chap, Earthling Ed, prominent vegan activist on YouTube, and I'm really interested to hear GB News' take on veganism. What is their arguments? Because they're going to have a debate, aren't they? And here's the thing with veganism. I eat meat, but I know that there's not actually any legitimate argument against becoming vegan. I know that. I mean, my argument for eating meat is basically, it's I like the taste of meat. That's it. I've got no other argument to back it up other than that, because if you look at it, and especially when you see videos from chaps like this, you know, they're prominent vegan activists and stuff, it is wrong, isn't it? I mean, for the climate crisis, for the suffering of animals. I mean, anyone that watches a video of factory farming and abattoirs of cows and pigs being slaughtered, you know, it's horrific. No one in this day and age can say that factory farming is a good thing, where we're just constantly impregnating these cows, getting them to produce milk and just fattening these pigs up constantly. It's horrific. And there is no argument against it. There really isn't. So I'll be interested to see what GB News' argument is, because I mean, the only way I could back up my argument slightly is there's very few pleasures in life. You know, you get told, don't smoke too much, or you can't vape, you shouldn't drink too much, don't drink too much coffee, all these things. There's a perfect meme or a reel that sums this up, where it starts off with, if you exchange your morning coffee with green tea every morning, you will take the last 20% of enjoyment that you will take out of life. I'm sure you've seen it before, but I mean, that sums it up. There's so few little pleasures in life, and all the pleasures in life seem to have some sort of detriment to our health. Smoking, drinking, all these sort of vices that give you pleasures. But eating meat with a healthy diet is healthy, and it gives you a pleasure. And in a world with so few pleasures, I'm taking it. I mean, that is literally the best argument that I can come up with for eating meat, because obviously in every other aspect, climate change, cruelty to animals, you know, we can live on a healthy diet of veganism. But yeah, let's check out what GB News. I'm interested to see what GB News' argument against veganism is.
Welcome back to the show. Lovely to have your company. Now, coming up as its popularity plummets, is it time to call out veganism for what it actually is, an eating disorder? But first, following yet another case. Now, has the vegan bubble burst? According to figures by consumer intelligence company NIQ, in the last 12 months, UK sales of chilled meat alternatives fell by 16.8% in January 2023, and frozen meat alternatives fell by 13.5%. Companies including Oatly, Nestle, Innocent and Heck Sausages have recently withdrawn various vegan products from the UK, whilst a recent Waitrose survey highlighted a resurgence in the popularity of dishes such as shepherd's pie, macaroni cheese and chicken Kiev. Yum.
That's got to be a cost of living thing, right? Because meat alternatives are always more expensive. Like you can have a very healthy, cheap vegan diet with, you know, lentils, chickpeas, vegetables, all these things. But the meat alternatives, the vegan sausages, the vegan burgers, are actually always more expensive. That has to be a cost of living thing. Let's check that out. Let's check it out. Yes, vegan meat alternatives are generally more expensive than meat, according to Nielsen data. Yeah, so that's a cost of living thing. So that's got nothing to do with people turning their back on veganism.
So, as thousands of Brits go plant-based for the month in a tradition known as Veganuary, a new book is out celebrating the vegan diet. It's called How to Argue with a Meat Eater and Win Every Time. Well, I'm delighted to say its author is Ed Winters, and he joins us now. Ed, lovely to have you on the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Mark.
Listen, what are the most powerful arguments for veganism?
Well, I think there's a number, you know, antibiotic resistance, so reducing antibiotics in our food chain, trying to prevent infectious
Because when you
diseases.
eat a cow that's been injected with antibiotics, you're eating antibiotics.
Not necessarily. It's not quite as simple as that, but antibiotics, when they're used in the farming system, cause bacteria to become resistant to those antibiotics.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that it's in the food we're consuming, but of course the knock-on effect is that we can come into contact with the resistant bacteria. There's also infectious diseases, bird flu, swine flu. There's the environmental harm. There's some of the health consequences related to certain animal product consumption. And for me, the big argument is reducing animal suffering, harm and death. So taking a stand against the unnecessary use and abuse of animals.
Now, I've got no doubt there are some great recipes in your book, and if people were eating avocados and almonds and salads and courgettes, I can agree it's a healthy diet.
Right.
But the problem is busy vegans don't eat those foods, do they? What they eat is the kind of instant soya burger, and they're eating just bowls of pasta and, you know.
Yeah, this argument always comes up, doesn't it, about veganism? But the thing is, I mean, it's obvious. You can have a very healthy diet being a vegan. You can have a very unhealthy diet being a vegan. You can have a very healthy diet being a meat eater. You can have a very unhealthy diet being a meat eater as well. It's just what you do. Whether you're having a bad diet as a vegan or a meat eater, it makes no difference.
Hummus sandwiches, none of which is all that nutritious.
Well, that's not strictly true. I mean, firstly, hummus sandwiches can be very nutritious, as can whole grain pasta dishes. And even when you look at some of the plant-based alternatives, they may not be the healthiest foods you can consume, but when studies compare them to their meat counterparts, they're not only more sustainable, but they are healthier as well.
It's all processed, though, isn't it? I mean, vegan bacon, I was just in the local M&S the other day, and the first ingredient is water, the second ingredient is sunflower oil.
Well, yeah, and bacon's a class 1 carcinogen. You know, vegan bacon isn't meant to be a health food. It's supposed to replicate and be an alternative to a class 1 carcinogen.
Yeah, because bacon is so healthy, isn't it? I'm fairly certain that water and sunflower oil is much more healthier than bacon. Bacon is like one of the most unhealthy. It's amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the most unhealthiest meats you could possibly eat.
Can
Michael,
I just jump in here, Ed?
Can I just warn you, Michael's just had a
It's Mike
steak.
Parry.
But I also know that Michael likes vegan
Ed, can I ask
sausage
you a very
sandwiches.
serious question, please?
So
A very
I've seen
serious
that.
question, because you're an expert on this. Is it not true that the human body, and I've read a lot of reports on it, needs protein, and protein comes from meat? And if you deny a human body that protein, strange things happen to the human body. So.
Oh, God, Mike Parry. But, God, I used to work night shifts, and we used to listen to Talk Sport. We all vaguely sort of had an interest in football, so it was a nice medium to put on. And the graveyard shift on Talk Sport used to be Mike Graham and this guy, Mike Parry. And, oh, my God, it was awful. I mean, Talk Sport, the same as Talk Radio, is owned by Rupert Murdoch. So they talk about football, but they just slip in, you know, Rupert Murdoch's bit of propaganda here, a little bit of Rupert Murdoch's politics here, where suddenly, you know, they just slip in a little bit of climate change skepticism or a little bit of pro-Margaret Thatcher stuff here, and they just slide it in. And this guy is a moron, an absolute moron. And I know he's going to get face planted straight away because he's talking about protein. You need meat to get protein. No, you don't. There's so many good alternatives from meat to get protein. Nuts. You know, let's have a look actually. So these are the top 20 most protein-rich foods. Eggs, obviously. So straight away, almonds. Almonds, straight away. Number 2, chicken breast, yeah, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, milk. So we've got a lot. 7, lentils, lean beef, fish. Yeah, I never know how to pronounce that. Quinoa, isn't it? So straight away in the top 10, you got quinoa, you got lentils, and you got almonds. So if you've got a diet that's rich in almonds, quinoa, and lentils, you don't need meat. You don't need meat.
So veganism, I've got a lot of respect for people who want to be vegans, who want to eat that way. But I do think that, you know, there is almost a kind of, you know, bullying type aspect to you must become a vegan to be a good people. But I do think that you are denying your body protein, which is absolutely necessary to the human form.
But all protein comes from plants. Animals get protein from consuming plants. Even carnivores get it from consuming herbivores.
Absolutely, and that's why cows have plenty of protein in them. And then when you eat a steak, you ingest protein.
But you can get protein from plants. All plant protein originates from plants.
You'd have to eat millions of plants, honestly, Ed. You'd have to eat millions of plants.
I mean,
Mike Parry is the biggest idiot in the world. Because if you're ever going to get in a debate with someone, so you're getting on a debate with someone, this guy is like probably the best in his field at vegan activism. At least know your stuff a little bit, Mike. You don't need to eat thousands and thousands. Almonds was the second highest protein-rich food in there, even above beef, above chicken. Oh, this guy is such a moron. I can't stand him.
compared to, let's say, a pork sausage in terms of protein.
Or a steak.
Well, they're not necessarily comparable, but broccoli isn't a protein source. But when you compare things like legumes, like soy, and even seitan, which is a plant-based protein, they have comparable, sometimes even higher amounts of protein per gram compared to certain animal products. The point you're making is completely mute. You can get protein in a plant-based diet.
It's not mute. It's
very hard to.
it
is. You can't mute Mike Parry. But I've tried.
You're not arguing against me. You're arguing against the NHS, the British Dietetic Association. You're arguing against the largest bodies of medical and health authorities on the planet.
We're omnivores, aren't we? So we've been eating a mixture of vegetables and meat
since cavemen.
Well, right, for thousands of years.
Had to.
And we've evolved quite strongly in that department, wouldn't you say?
Well, we've evolved as being opportunistic scavengers. We ate what we could to survive.
But would we have done that? Would we have done that without meat, Michael?
We killed animals because we needed it. We knew right from the birth of man that sustainability in the human form was the food chain, and the food chain involved us killing animals and eating that.
Let me respond to that point you just made.
Yes, please. Yeah.
At that time, we ate what we had to survive. Society has changed and evolved in a number of different ways, and what we have now is information and accessibility to foods that our ancestors never did. Our ancestors used to kill one another, rape one another to survive and to prosper, but we would never condone such a thing now because we live in a modern...
It's an interesting topic because, when when humans started cooking meat, it helped evolve our brains. This is what scientists tell us, right? That was one of the big crucial turning points for our brains to get bigger when we started cooking, when we developed fire and started cooking meat. So there's an argument there, but do we need that for further evolution? And what Ed is saying here is that it's basically the argument that, when we were natural predators back in the day, we ate what we needed to survive. But hunting a deer and killing it and eating it for the herd is very different to what we have right now, which is factory farming. And I think that's the major difference, isn't it? Like, there's an argument for eggs, isn't there? Like, if in this scenario, I don't think a vegan can actually complain if, say, you kidnapped a load of chickens from a factory farm, a battery, something really horrific. You kidnapped them, you brought them back home, and you gave them this amazing life with an amazing garden, with loads of things to do, with worms to eat and things to play on and scutter around and have an amazing life. And you just have some of their eggs. It's kind of like rent payment for this. We've taken you away from this factory farm. We've given you a great life. Just in return, just give us a couple of eggs. I mean, I don't think you can have a moral argument for that. And that's what it comes back. Factory farming is the main argument here. I think there's better ways. And also, I think there's definitely an argument for just people eating less meat. I know a lot of people that seem to think they can't have a meal without eating meat. There has to be meat in every meal, which is nonsense. There's so many amazing meals that you can make without, I quite often, I have a lentil curry with no meat, which is amazing. Just the simple, like, I grow my own tomatoes, so it's better with homegrown tomatoes, but tomatoes fried in olive oil with garlic with spaghetti. So simple, so amazing, no meat needed, beans and a jacket potato. I'm sounding very British now, but you don't need to eat meat every single day. And I think there's definitely a good argument for people to just eat less meat, because factory farming, it is horrific. It really is horrific.
I'll just flip the coin for a moment. Supposing the argument was the other way around, and I said to you, look, I think you should be a vegetarian, but eat false vegetables, not real vegetables. Do you see what I mean? Because you want us to eat false meat, not real meat.
Oh, God, Mike Parry, he never fails. He never fails. He is such a moron. No one's forcing vegans to eat meat alternatives. That's just something that is there. But most vegans don't eat meat alternatives. The vegans that I know don't actually like the taste of meat, especially when you've been vegan for a lot of time. So you don't want something that substitutes that. No one is forcing anyone to eat meat alternatives. You can have a healthy diet, a healthy vegan diet on fruit and vegetable. This guy, I've still got nightmares from many a night shift listening to this guy talk politics on Talk TV, and just me going, oh, Jesus Christ. And then a couple of my members of staff are like agreeing with some of the stuff that he's saying. I'm like, oh God, no. No, I distinctly remember one of my members of staff when he was bigging up Boris Johnson, and This guy was saying he's the saviour for this country. He's going to turn this country around. No, what are you doing? Don't listen to Mike Parry. Don't listen to Mike Parry.
So if I said to you, look, here's a cabbage, but it's a false cabbage, how would you feel about that if I was finding a way to produce a false cabbage, not a real cabbage?
Well, I mean, firstly, you don't have to eat plant-based alternatives if you don't want to. Just eat whole plant foods instead. I know that you are quite fond of the vegan sausage, of course. I've seen you eating that sausage about quite nicely. But the point is, the reason that we have these plant-based alternatives is because there are more ethical decisions. So if I eat vegan bacon, vegan sausage, vegan burger, what that means is I'm no longer paying for animals to be mutilated, forcibly
But why do they call it bacon and
forced
sausage?
into
It's not, is it? Why do they call it vegan sausage and vegan bacon?
Sausage refers to the shape.
It's not, yeah, exactly, but it's
cylindrical shape.
But isn't that conning people? You know.
Oh God, he just digs himself further, doesn't he, Mike Parry? He's such a more. I remember Piers Morgan getting really upset about this, the fact that it was called a vegan sausage roll. A sausage is the shape, like he just said. You have a lamb sausage, you have a pork sausage, you have a chicken sausage, a turkey sausage, or a vegan sausage, a meat substitute sausage. Why? I remember Piers Morgan getting so upset with this. It's just what it's called, so we know what it is. It's an imitation sausage roll that's vegan.
If you say this is a vegan sausage, it's not a vegan sausage.
It's a meat-free sausage. So when people see it, they go, that is a sausage made from something that isn't from an animal.
Let me tell you, you don't want to see Mike's sausage. Ed, can I tell you that you spoke very well, and your book is out now. Very interesting read it is too. It is called How to Argue with a Meat Eater and Win.
Okay, let's wrap that up. I'll put a link down to Earthling Ed's channel down below, because he's an interesting guy. And Harry, such a moron. But like I say, you can't really argue. You cannot argue with the vegan argument. You really can't. And I think it's just one of those things that just has to be gradual. I know it's different, but think about smoking back in the day. Everyone smoked, and it was normal to smoke, and everyone smoked. But little changes changed that. Smoking ban coming in, advertising of cigarettes banned, warning labels on cigarettes. All these little things come in, and then gradually we sort of, as a society, just stop smoking more, smoking less over time. And I think veganism is one of those things that just has to roll out over time. Like I said earlier, I think people should definitely cut the amount of meat that they eat. You don't need to eat that much meat. You don't need to eat meat with every single meal. And yeah, that will be my argument, because there is no argument. Like I started the video, there is no argument. My argument is meat gives me pleasure, which is so few and far between in life, so I keep doing it. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, guys. Are you a vegan? Do you have anything to say on this argument? Are you strongly against or strongly for? I know it can divide a room sometimes, these things, but yeah, I'd really love to know your comments down below. And if you like the video, click a like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe up top, be another video, and check that out as well. Till next time, take care.